The United States of America is investing $150 million in some African countries to boost agriculture in Africa so that we Africans can feed ourselves and also feed the entire world. The United States ambassador to the United Nations, Ambassador Linda Thomas-Greenfield, is the one handling this initiative. So during one of her speeches, she said Ghana is now a leader on the African continent regarding food security and food systems.
Ghana is evolving and still has much more progress to make. The Ghana of today is an entirely new country from the Ghana I experienced in 1978. Despite some malnutrition challenges in part of the North, Ghana is now a leader on this continent for food security and food systems. You have a strong base to build on. But in my mind, Ghana is nowhere near its peak, nor is Africa more broadly. Ghana can supply even more local foods. It can become an agribusiness hub. It can become a breadbasket for the world.
But before we get into the speech of Ambassador Linda Thomas-Greenfield, we would like to share with you why the United States is investing this $150 million to boost agriculture in some African countries. But before we start, for the very first time, we are not here to tell you to like and subscribe to this channel for more videos like this. But we want to inform and alert you that let us all try our best to buy and keep more food as possible. Let's also reduce the amount of food we waste on daily basis. And last but not the least, if you are watching us and you have any land available, please try and plant something on it, including our gardens, because the world is going to experience the worst global food security crisis ever. So thank you very much for your attention. Now let's get back to the main topic. The world is experiencing the worst global food security crisis, and this is an emergency, so we need to talk about it. In fact, according to the World Food Program, 20 million people may risk going hungry in Africa, and going hungry also means death. According to the World Food Programs again, over the years, 100 million people were food insecure, but from the year 2020 to 2022, just in 3 years, the number has jumped to over 190 million people. Therefore, food insecurity has become a global emergency. Energy crisis, climate change, the COVID-19 pandemic, and the Russia-Ukraine conflict are the main causes of this global food insecurity. So let's take them one after the other and explain them for you to understand why these are contributing a lot to the global food insecurity. Energy crisis. Prices of energy have gone up in the past year. This can have a destructive effect on the food cycle because energy is used to produce the chemical fertilizers that help crops to grow. Then farmers use energy, usually diesel, to run harvesting equipment before they process their crops in plants where more energy is needed. And then you also need the same energy to get that harvested food to stores, to restaurants, to markets, and from the stores to our homes. So higher energy cost means higher food cost. 2. The climate change. Right now, the world is experiencing the worst drought in historical record. Italy, for example, has declared a state of emergency in 5 regions because of a drought caused by lack of rain and rising temperature. In Africa, Somalia is also on the verge of famine because tens of thousands of people are desperately traveling across the desert looking for food. Over 70,000 camels, goats, sheep, and cattle died in just the first 2 months of this year from drought-related causes. In fact, according to the United Nations, agricultural productivity growth in Africa has gone down over the past 30 years by more than a third because of climate change. The climate crisis is also a crisis of natural disasters because it causes floods, storms, and heat waves. And this directly leads to a food security crisis. 3. The COVID-19 pandemic. The COVID-19 pandemic disrupted the labor market that farmers across the world rely on. It crashed our supply chain and made it harder to get food to market, and also lead us to economic hardship and inflation. The virus has made it more difficult for people to afford food that gets to the markets. And lastly, the Russian-Ukraine conflict. Russia and Ukraine jointly account for nearly a third of global wheat supply, and over 40% of African wheat supply comes from Russia. So because of the conflict, Russia has blocked the Black Sea, and that has kept over 20 million tons of Ukrainian grains from global market, and this has jeopardized food security across the Middle East and Africa, which has contributed to the higher food prices worldwide. In fact, food prices worldwide are now 23% higher than a year ago. So, solving these problems, the only hope for the world is Africa, because Africa owns 70% of the arable land in the entire world, but lack of financial support and other things, we can't utilize it. So, at the beginning of the year, the European Union gave Ghana 44.7 million euros to boost agriculture in Ghana. And now, the United States of America is also investing $150 million in some African countries to boost agriculture in Africa, so that we Africans can feed ourselves and also feed the entire world. The United States ambassador to the United Nations, Ambassador Linda Thomas-Greenfield, is the one handling this initiative. According to her, Ghana is now a leader on the African continent regarding food security and food systems. But Ghana is nowhere near its peak. So they can supply even more local food, and it can also become an agro-business hub that can even become a bread basket for the world. She also announced that Ghana would receive $2.5 million in new development help from the United States of America to boost the availability of fertilizers. Additional fundings would also focus on development and marketing initiative fertilizers products, and offer support to importers and manufacturers, including private sector partnership to bring more fertilizers into the country and ensure they reach most farmers. Let's hear something small from Ambassador Linda Thomas-Greenfield.
And all of these problems, energy, climate, COVID, and conflict, combine into a complex cocktail that has led to the worst hunger crisis our lifetimes. This kind of unprecedented global crisis calls for an unprecedented global response. That's why I have consistently brought this issue to the UN Security Council. The world needs to see how food insecurity increases the risk of conflict. And the Security Council needs to do a better job of stopping food from being used as a weapon of war. For our part, in May, during the United States presidency of the Security Council, Secretary Blinken joined me in New York, and we hosted a series of days of action on food security. We brought together partners from around the world to craft a roadmap for global food security. The roadmap calls for UN member states to provide additional humanitarian funding and in-kind donations of food from national stockpiles to keep food and agricultural markets open, to increase fertilizer production, to support sustainable food systems, and to monitor crisis and a common agenda for addressing it. And since May, we've been working together with the UN, the G7, and others to encourage partnerships on addressing this issue with more donors around the world. In fact, President Biden secured a commitment for $4.5 billion in funding for food security at the G7 summit. And to demonstrate just how much we care about this issue, the United States' commitment was more than half of this total, $2.76 billion. When others travel to Africa, I think it's worth asking them how much they're contributing to these efforts, because this needs to be a multilateral, global effort. And as we face down the immediate threat and look to get as much food and humanitarian supplies to as many hungry and desperate people as possible, we also have to take on the root causes of energy and climate and COVID and conflict. Each of these root causes and how we are working together to tackle them could easily be their own speech, their own conversation. But amidst all of these difficult generational challenges, there are actually opportunities. The food security crisis can be a clarion call both for Ghana and for Africa. The crisis can galvanize the resources, the infrastructure, the connections needed to make this country and this continent its own breadbasket, to provide your own food to your people, and perhaps to the rest of the world. Now, I know this is hard to imagine in the middle of a food security crisis, but I also know it's possible, and I know you know it's possible. I've traveled to Ghana often since then. I was here to observe the 2016 general elections, your president's inauguration in 2017. I have watched this country's rapid and radical transformation toward democracy, stability, toward food security, toward peace. Ghana is evolving and still has much more progress to make. But the Ghana of today is an entirely new country from the Ghana I experienced in 1978. Despite some malnutrition challenges in part of the North, Ghana is now a leader on this continent for food security and food systems. You have a strong base to build on. But in my mind, Ghana is nowhere near its peak, nor is Africa more broadly. Ghana can supply even more local foods. It can become an agribusiness hub. It can become a breadbasket for the world. And of course, Ghana is not the only country with that potential here in Africa. Nigeria has huge swaths of arable land. So does the Democratic Republic of Congo. And the list goes on and on. My point is this: for too long, the wealthy and powerful have extracted Africa's natural resources for their own gain, and it continues today through bad deals and debt traps. We want to see an Africa that provides for Africa, with self-sustaining food supplies, that translates peace into sugar bread, chapatis, injera, and jollof rice that you can share with the globe. Your potential is simply extraordinary. Of course, reaching that world is still going to take a lot of hard work. It will take resources. It will take perseverance, commitment, and good governance. It will mean calling on the large and prosperous African diaspora to help you make progress. Efforts like the 2019 Year of Return are a great way to unlock the potential of that diaspora, which has billions of dollars and vast troves of priceless offer. It will mean partnering with governments, with NGOs, and with agribusiness, a topic I know we'll be discussing at the U.S.-Africa Leaders Summit in December. It will mean taking on the complex networks of challenges that cause food insecurity to begin in the first place. But I believe it can lead to peace and prosperity for all of us. For our part, the United States is committed to this work. It is the foundation of Feed the Future, our global hunger and food security initiative, which President Biden dramatically expanded this summer to include the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Liberia, Madagascar, Malawi, Mozambique, Rwanda, Tanzania, Zambia, joining 12 other target countries, including Ghana. But more funding is needed to address food security and to address crises that compound food security, like the refugees and internally displaced people who are forced from their homes and put a strain on the food systems wherever they find shelter. And that's why today I'm proud to announce nearly $150 million in new additional humanitarian funding and development assistance pending congressional notification for Africa. That includes the $20 million It includes the $20 million I announced yesterday in Uganda, which will go toward expanding investments in fertilizer, grains, and other crops, with the goal of increasing resilience to future shocks in Uganda. You know, yesterday I visited a grain milling factory in Uganda that we're helping to support, and I saw just how critical it is to keep these factories running. Today, the funds I'm announcing also include additional funding for Ghana that focuses on developing and marketing innovative fertilizer products and offers support to importers and manufacturers, including private sector partners, to bring more fertilizer into this country. Even before this additional aid, here in Ghana, we've been assisting more than 638,000 smallholder farmers. We've assisted 638,000 smallholder farmers to adapt to price spikes by helping them use local fertilizer sources. We're also promoting the use of improved seeds that need less fertilizer and encouraging private sector and agribusiness partnerships that will bring the resources, the technology, and the know-how to build up a farming infrastructure. Finally, we know that conflicts can weaponize hunger and force people to leave their homes. That leads to mass displacement, which leads to internally displaced people and refugees, which puts strains on the food systems of surrounding countries. So the funding I'm announcing today includes more than $127 million in additional humanitarian assistance for Africa to provide for life-saving support to refugees, asylum seekers, internally displaced persons, stateless persons, and persecuted people across Africa. And let me just say that this brings us to about $6.6 billion of humanitarian assistance to Africa since the beginning of this fiscal year. And I want to thank Ghana and all African countries who have opened their doors and opened their borders to those who seek refuge, who are seeking protection from conflict. The humanitarian funds will also be used to address human impacts felt by refugees and those displaced here in Africa and the communities which host them. It will help those affected by crises in Burkina Faso, the Central African Republic, Nigeria, Niger, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Mali, and other new and protracted displacement situations. It will support humanitarian partners who make life better for the 7 million refugees and 25 million internally displaced people in Africa. And it will go toward building a peace that translates to bread and rice for all who are hungry. Now is the moment to work together across governments, across countries, between people to end hunger. Now is the moment to forge partnerships with civil society, the private sector, to galvanize the diaspora, to take advantage of new technologies and better techniques to build the food systems and the structures of the future. Now is the time. Now is the time to be the future, to transform Ghana and other African nations into bread baskets of your own. The world is hungry, and your potential is unlimited, and there's not a moment to lose. Thank you.